Alright, so you ready to learn how to button a suit properly? No, you're not, because you're not even wearing a suit right now. There we go. Much better. Before we get started, there are two main rules in buttoning suits. Number 1, do not button the bottom button. Number 2, do not button the bottom button. Now that we have that out of the way, let's get going. So this is a standard 2-button, 2-piece suit. It's the most common suit that's worn today. This is the easiest to learn how because you just button the top button and you never button the bottom button. Why? Because you never button the bottom button. Make sure when you sit down, you unbutton it. But when you stand back up, to button it back. Right, so now that we have that out of the way, let's move to a 3-button suit. The 3-button suit, also known as the 3-button suit. 3-button suit is actually the most traditional suit. It's characterized by having 3 buttons. The rules to a 3-button suit are simple. Sometimes, always, never. Why? Because you never button the bottom button. And I can hear you ask, but why don't I button the bottom button? Because I said so. But more specifically, because I said so. More specifically, the suits are designed for the bottom button not to be buttoned. And it also telegraphs to people that if you button the bottom button, that you don't particularly know how to wear a suit. Make sure you leave it unbuttoned. Going back to sometimes, always, never, meaning that the middle button should always be buttoned. And this top button is optional. This one isn't. As far as sitting or standing goes, the same rules apply for the 2-button. Unbutton when sitting, but then button back up when standing. You got that? Great. Now let's add vest. Now vests are different in a few ways. So with a vest, you always want to button all the top buttons, especially if you have a tie, but this is the only case where this is acceptable. The bottom button is optional. I prefer to leave it unbuttoned because I don't like buttoning the bottom button. Now let's add the jacket back in. Typically when wearing a 3-piece, you want to leave the jacket open to expose the vest, but if you want to, you may button it. When sitting with a 3-piece suit, leave the jacket undone, but you don't want to touch any of the buttons on the vest. Now that's covered, let's get our full Kingsman on with the double-breasted suit. In a sea of suits, the double-breasted is a great way to stand out. But buttoning it is a little different. In buttoning a double-breasted suit, you actually have a button on the inside right here that you want to button first. Then once that's completed, you want to button the middle button right here, just like that. And then you don't button the bottom button. Why? Because you never button the bottom button. Thank you. Now with a double-breasted suit, you want to leave it buttoned all times. Sit down, it's buttoned. When you stand up, it's buttoned. You never unbutton it. Now that you know everything, there's just one more thing we need to go over. If you have functioning buttonholes right here on the cuff of your suit, traditionally you're supposed to leave them all buttoned, but if you want to style things up just a little bit, feel free to unbutton just the last one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.